My wife cheated on our daughter's birthday, lied about it for weeks, and now she wants me to forgive her and stay in the marriage. I, 29 am in the worst fight I've ever had with my wife, 30F. We've had disagreements before, but this one feels different. I honestly don't know how to move forward. For context, we've been together since college and married for almost 6 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter, and while our relationship has always had challenges, we've worked through them. We've had to navigate cultural differences and some family opposition, but we always found a way to make it work. My wife is not just my partner. She's my first love and my best friend. She works in a corporate job that requires her to attend an annual work retreat. It's a week-long trip, and this year, it was held in Las Vegas. In the past, I'd adjust my schedule and travel with her, turning it into a mini vacation for us as a couple and sometimes as a family. This year, that wasn't an option. Our daughter has developed pretty severe travel anxiety, and we've been trying to help her through it. When it became clear that she wasn't ready for a long trip, we decided I'd stay home with her instead. It was disappointing because these trips were a rare chance for my wife and me to reconnect. Her work hours have been relentless lately, and I felt like we've been running on autopilot rather than truly spending time together. We talked about whether she should skip the retreat. Technically, it wasn't mandatory, but there was an unspoken expectation to attend, especially since she was trying to establish stronger connections in her field. In the end, she decided to go. At first, everything seemed normal. We have a routine for when one of us is away. We check in regularly and make time for calls. For the first couple of days, she stuck to it. Then things started to shift. She became distant, and I'd get left on read even when I was texting about important things. If I confronted her, she'd claim she never saw my messages. When we did talk, she sounded impatient, like she wanted to rush me and our daughter off the phone. It wasn't like she was busy with scheduled retreat events during these moments. She just seemed disinterested. The real breaking point came when she bailed on our daughter's birthday FaceTime. Because her trip overlapped with our daughter's birthday, she had promised to call so we could have a small celebration over video chat. Our daughter had been looking forward to it all day. But at the last minute, my wife backed out. She said she had people coming up to her room for post-seminar networking. It felt like she was asking me to give her permission to break her promise. I told her I wasn't going to do that. Her choices were her own, and she'd have to be the one to explain them to our daughter. She got upset, saying I was being unfair and that these kinds of networking opportunities were crucial for her career. According to her, these were people who wouldn't understand if she stepped away for a family call. Our daughter didn't understand any of this. She just knew that her mom had promised something and then let her down. She cried, confused and hurt. My wife ended up hanging up, leaving me to deal with the aftermath alone. Now she's back home, and things between us are tense. She's acting like I'm overreacting, but I can't shake the feeling that something is off. It's not just the broken promise. It's how she pulled away during the entire trip. I don't know how to navigate this. How do I talk to her about this without making things worse? Am I wrong for feeling like this is a bigger issue than she's making it out to be? This whole situation has been eating at me, and I don't know how to move forward. I feel like I'm stuck in this weird limbo where things between my wife and me haven't fully exploded, but they also haven't gone back to normal. After everything that happened during her work retreat, the distance, the lack of communication, the broken promise to our daughter, I was already feeling uneasy. But what really pushed me over the edge was what happened after. She never actually followed through on the rain check with our daughter. She was supposed to make up for missing the birthday FaceTime, but when the time came, there was always an excuse. A delayed flight, feeling exhausted from work, something always came up. Our daughter was upset, but she's young, so she moved on faster than I did. I, on the other hand, couldn't let it go. Then there was the social media stuff. My wife was posting pictures and videos from the retreat, and one thing stood out: her new coworker. He's a younger guy, 23M, and in almost every picture or video she posted, he was right there. Sometimes just in the background, but in some, it was more than that. In one particular picture, he had his arm around her a little too comfortably for my liking. I already didn't like this guy. He's a new hire in her department, and my wife was assigned to oversee him. From the start, he gave off weird vibes. He lacks boundaries, and my wife, being the kind-hearted person she is, just laughs it off. Once, he even texted her something inappropriate, nothing overtly sexual, but something that rubbed me the wrong way. In response to a work assignment, he told her, "You're exactly the kind of woman I need to keep me in check." That sounded way too flirty for a professional setting. When I brought it up, my wife just waved it off, saying he was struggling to fit in at work and she felt bad for him. She's always been the type to take people under her wing, so I let it slide, but it stayed in the back of my mind. During the retreat, I started to feel like she was using networking as an excuse for everything. If I questioned why she wasn't answering my calls, she was tired or too busy with work stuff. But I've seen her on these retreats before. This wasn't her usual behavior. She was off. Then, the day before she came home, she casually mentioned that she had a bruise on her neck. She claimed it was a bug bite. At the time, I didn't think much of it, but the way she made a big deal about it over the phone only to brush it off in person stuck with me. When she finally got home, I saw the bruise, and my stomach dropped. It didn't look like a bug bite at all. It looked exactly like a hickey. I didn't say anything immediately because our daughter was around, but I felt like I was burning up inside. When I finally confronted her about it later, she doubled down on the bug bite excuse. I kept pressing, and that's when she flipped it on me. "What exactly are you trying to say?" she asked, acting all defensive. I didn't beat around the bush. I told her straight up. I thought it looked like a hickey, and I didn't believe she was being honest with me. That's when everything exploded. She was furious that I'd even suggest something like that. She started throwing out accusations, saying I was looking for a reason to fight with her because I was still mad about the birthday FaceTime incident. But I told her, this has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that there's a damn hickey on your neck. The argument went nowhere. She was offended that I'd accuse her, and I was frustrated that she refused to take my feelings seriously. She kept saying I was being paranoid and that I needed to trust her. But trust isn't just something you demand, it's something you earn, and right now, my gut is telling me that something isn't right. Since that fight, things have been weird between us. She's been acting like nothing happened, but I know she feels the tension. She started wearing turtlenecks and high-collar shirts, which only makes me feel more suspicious. It's like she's hiding something. At the same time, she's been over-the-top affectionate with me and our daughter. It feels forced, like she's trying too hard to overcorrect. And every time I try to bring up the retreat or what happened, she just brushes it off like I'm making a big deal out of nothing. This isn't how we usually handle things. We've always been good at communicating, but this time, it feels like we're at an impasse. I don't know how to get past this, and I don't know if I want to get past this without knowing the full truth. So now I'm stuck. How do I move forward? Do I push the issue until she finally tells me what's really going on? Do I just let it go and pretend everything is fine? I feel like I'm spiraling, and I need an outside perspective. TLDR, my wife acted distant during a work retreat in Vegas, blew off our daughter's birthday, and came home with what looks like a hickey. She swears it's a bug bite, but I don't believe her. Ever since then, she's been overly affectionate but also avoiding real conversations. I don't know how to move forward. Update. Things have been an absolute roller coaster, and I'm still trying to process everything. It took a long time for my wife and me to have any real conversation about the bruise on her neck. For a while, we were caught in this cycle, either fighting or pretending everything was fine while she showered our daughter and me with affection. It felt forced, like she was trying to smooth things over without actually addressing the real problem. She never let me get a good look at the mark. Anytime I might have caught a glimpse, she was wearing a turtleneck or a high-collar shirt. But I noticed the healing process. First, it was that deep reddish purple, then faded into that ugly yellow-green. That wasn't a bug bite. I knew it, and deep down, I think she knew I knew. We never talked about Vegas again. She shut down any conversation about it, made it clear that in her mind, the discussion was over. She told me she shouldn't have to defend herself to her husband. That was the final straw for me. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but I was done being treated like a fool. I wasn't going to share a bed with someone I couldn't trust. So, I moved into the guest room. After that, communication stopped completely. The silences in our house became unbearable, thick with everything unsaid. Even our daughter picked up on the tension. I hate that. I never wanted our problems to affect her, but kids are more perceptive than we give them credit for. Then, one night, my wife knocked on the guest room door. When I opened it, I saw her face, red, puffy, and streaked with tears. She asked if we could talk. I could tell she had been holding everything in, and now, finally, it was breaking through. She told me she hated the way things had been between us, that she felt like she was losing me either way. I told her that the only way we could even begin to move forward was with complete honesty. I needed the truth, all of it. And then she finally confessed. She cheated. On our daughter's birthday. With him. That damn coworker. The one who had no boundaries, the one she had defended, the one I knew had been a problem from the start. She told me it wasn't planned, that it just happened in the moment. They had been drinking, they were alone, and one thing led to another. According to her, they made out, there was some over-the-clothes stuff, and then he went down on her. That's when she snapped out of it, because he called her by my nickname for her. That was the moment she realized what she was doing. She claimed she immediately left, splashed water on her face, and saw the hickey in the mirror. When she confronted him, he laughed it off, called it her souvenir from the trip. That was when she kicked him out of her hotel suite. She said part of the reason she had been avoiding me was guilt. She couldn't face what she had done. And now, she was coming clean because she didn't want to keep hiding it. I asked her the only question that mattered. Why? What was it about this guy that made her risk everything? Our marriage, our family, our daughter's trust. What was worth all of that? Her answer? It wasn't about him specifically. She insisted she wasn't unhappy in our marriage, that she still loved me, that she didn't even find him that special. But she admitted that something inside her felt broken. She started talking about her dad. How, the older she gets, the more she sees herself turning into him. The way he was always consumed with work, the The way he became distant from his family, the way he cheated on her mom. She said growing up in that environment messed her up in ways she didn't fully understand. Her mom never addressed it, never talked about it, just swept everything under the rug. I let her say her piece, but I wasn't about to let her blame her childhood for this. I told her straight up, her parents didn't make her cheat. She chose to. She chose to ignore all the red flags. She chose to entertain this guy's attention, to engage with his flirting instead of shutting it down. She chose to go back to her room with him. At any point, she could have chosen us instead. But she didn't. And to her credit, she didn't try to argue with that. She agreed. She admitted she wanted to blame her past, but ultimately, this was all on her. She apologized, both for cheating and for entertaining his advances in the first place. She said she would do anything to fix what she broke. She'd go to HR and report him. She'd quit her job. She'd go to marriage counseling. Whatever it takes. But I don't know if anything can fix this. I told her I don't know what right even looks like anymore. I don't know if it's possible for us to come back from this. I knew we had our problems, but I thought that, no matter what, there wasn't anything we couldn't talk out. Now, I don't know what to do. I feel numb. A part of me still loves her. A part of me is absolutely furious. And a part of me feels like I already know the answer. I just don't want to say it out loud yet. She insisted we could still talk it out, that we didn't have to give up on us. She tried to give this emotional speech about fighting for our relationship, but I just felt numb. I told her I didn't recognize her anymore. Not just because she broke our vows, but because of the way she treated our daughter. It wasn't just the affair, it was the coldness, the distance, the way she prioritized some guy over her own child. She was like a stranger to me. She admitted she felt like she had failed, as a wife, as a mother. But she swore that she loved us both beyond words, and that she wanted to fix things, to keep our family intact. I told her I couldn't give her the answer she wanted. I wasn't going to pretend everything could just go back to normal. I needed space to process, and I believed we needed a separation to reevaluate everything. She was against it. She said we should stay in the same house, work through it together. But I refused. A separation was happening, whether she liked it or not. Either she moved out, or I was taking our daughter and leaving. She eventually agreed to leave, saying she didn't want to uproot our daughter more than necessary. She only asked that I not keep our daughter away from her. Now she's staying with her parents, which I know isn't easy for her. She never had the best relationship with them, and I can only imagine how difficult it must be for her to be back in that environment after everything that's happened. One of the hardest parts of all of this is how it's affecting our daughter. Right now, she just thinks her mom is busy with work like always. She hasn't questioned it much yet, but I know that day will come, and I have no idea how I'll explain it to her. My mother-in-law called me the other day. She didn't make excuses for her daughter, but she did advocate for us trying to work through it. She told me about times when she had heard my wife describe me as her anchor, the one thing in her life that always kept her grounded. She truly believes that there's still something worth saving if I'm willing to try. It's ironic, really. Despite all the family opposition we faced at the beginning of our relationship, my ML was always one of our biggest supporters. And now, even after everything, she's still rooting for us. But I don't know how to feel anymore. I never imagined this kind of betrayal from my wife. She was my safe place, the person I trusted more than anyone. Now I feel completely broken. And yet, I still love her. That's the worst part. That hasn't changed. But I don't see her the same way. I don't see us the same way. Our relationship, our family, everything feels different now. More fragile, more tense, more uncertain. Right now, I think the separation is the best thing for both of us. I'm not sure where I stand on divorce yet. I haven't fully let myself go there. I'm not set either way. I just know that, for now, my priority is my daughter. I'm taking things one step at a time because that's all I can do. Thanks again to everyone who has reached out and shown support. I appreciate it more than I can express.